Making a short film is a long process. An insane amount of work goes into writing, preparing, shooting, and editing any given short film, and even the most straightforward films can take months to complete. Anyway, here's a story about how we made one in 5 days. I'm not really naturally the quickest worker in the world, which is why I'm extremely nervous and yet extremely excited right now. So the All-American High School Film Festival in 2021 accepted my film K and my music video for Remember That Night. It is the world's largest high school film festival. It is extremely reputable, it's huge, it is a very big deal in the student film community. If you saw my behind the scenes video for the Remember That Night music video, you might remember the circumstances of why I made it. It was because the All-American High School Film Festival opened up a special competition in which they had gained the rights to all of these mainstream songs by popular artists so that student filmmakers like myself could make a music video for a song like that. And that's one of the great things about the All-American High School Film Festival. It's not just a festival, they also sponsor all of these extra competitions throughout the year. So with that in mind, let's talk about the next one that they're doing. The All-American High School Film Festival Winter Invitational. In this competition, we will have to write, shoot, and edit an entire short film in 5 days. Like any good story does, this story begins on a school bus full of teenagers on their way to a retirement home. I could go into detail about which academic programs I signed up for that led me to this moment, but that would be a waste of your time, so for the sake of this story, let's just accept the fact that I ended up on this field trip to go sing Christmas carols to the elderly. Oh yeah, and also, this trip and our entire program are sponsored by Chick-fil-A. They have this thing called Chick-fil-A Leader Academy where they do service projects, and well, it's a long story, but as a result of their sponsorship, some of the lyrics in our Christmas carols looked a little bit different.
So bring us some chicken minis, so bring us some chicken minis, so bring us some chicken minis.
There's some social commentary in there somewhere. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is because this was Thursday morning, the day we got our prompt and required elements for the All-American High School Film Festival Winter Invitational. The prompt we were given was Better Watch Out. Given that we already knew the theme of the competition was going to be holiday horror, this prompt didn't change much about our possible ideas for the film, especially considering how ambiguous it is. On to the required elements now. First up is a line of dialogue that we would have to incorporate into the film. Is it getting hot in here? Next, we would have to include one of the following 3 Foley sound effects: crackling fire, jingling bells, or howling wind. Finally, we were required to include imagery of either a snow globe or a snowman. So with these guidelines in mind, we were ready to begin work on our story. Given that the vast majority of the actors we know are female, as well as being theater kids and talented singers, we came up with an idea about several teenage Christmas carolers. One of them would get lost, so they would go to take shelter in a random house where they would run into a creepy child who ends up murdering them, or something like that. We came up with this alternate idea about the carolers going to one of their own houses only to find that it's been left abandoned, but that idea wasn't clicking quite right either, and we were having a hard time finding ways to incorporate our required elements into that story, so we ditched that one too. Also, it was getting a little bit loud and difficult to concentrate on the bus. We got people doing PDA on the bus.
Ew.
Man, what?
It's disrespectful.
We ended up having to take a break from the story because we got back to the school just in time for 5th period, and I had 3 midterm tests left to take. We're studying for our government test next period.
Yeah.
First question, what's a government, Mandy?
I don't know, it just is.
We're gonna fail. I actually ended up doing pretty well on all 3 of those tests, for the record. So the rest of my Thursday ended up being pretty busy as well. I went directly from school to an office Christmas party at Sozo Bear Films where I interned over the summer, then I went back to Zoe's to meet up before I headed out to go see the premiere of the new Spider-Man movie. Despite being in a serious time crunch for this short film, I was still extremely determined to go see the new Spider-Man premiere as soon as it premiered, so we did, and it was spectacular. Anyway, I got home late that night and worked on the story a little bit more with my sister. We came up with a new story idea. The carolers arrive at the house of an old friend who they've grown distant from following a tragedy in her life. They try to make amends with her, and at first she seems unbelievably forgiving, but eventually she begins murdering them with her magic powers. This is the idea we ended up going with. We decided to use Zoe's house as our location since I really liked the look and feel of the place, and their Christmas decorations were on point. Also, Zoe's house is pretty much 2 separate buildings, so we could film in the part of the house where Zoe and her brother live without disturbing her parents much at all, which is a major plus. On Friday, Olivia, Brooke, and Elise, who would play 3 of our 4 4 carolers came over to help us test out some shot setups and get a better idea for the film's aesthetic. They also read through the scenes in the script I had written so far to get familiar with their characters so that they would be more prepared when filming began the next day. We had a couple of things to do though before we could begin filming. Besides wrapping up the script, we also had to make it so that we could shoot nighttime scenes in Zoe's house during the day. If you've seen previous behind the scenes videos where I had this problem, you know exactly where this is going. Trash bags on the windows, baby. This time around though, instead of doing it all myself, which takes hours, it took only about 20 minutes thanks to the help of both Zoe and her parents, so thank you Mr. and Mrs. Davidson. Oh yeah, and thank you to Mr. Davidson for randomly cleaning my car that day too. My girlfriend's dad is washing my car. I didn't ask him to or anything, he just started doing it. My girlfriend's family is pretty amazing. Anyway, once we had covered the windows with trash bags, we covered up the trash bags using curtains and tension rods that we bought at Target. We spent the rest of Friday night and Saturday morning making a shot list, and at 1 p.m. on Saturday, everyone was finally all on set at one time. Hello.
And welcome.
You unlock this door with the key to imagination.
Have you ever heard the story of Darth Potassium?
Have I ever told you the story of Darth Potassium the Wise?
Okay, everybody, here, meet our crew. This is Elizabeth and Mandy. They are our two assistant directors for this film. And this is Brooks. He's the yearbook photographer at our school. He's like the best at what he does, so he's gonna be our This is most of the cast. This is Olivia, Brooke, and Elise. You know them from the Slumber Party. You know Olivia from like all of them.
Everything.
She's in the very first one.
So sad.
And then this is Zoe. She's my girlfriend. You know her from the Remember That Night music video and the Halloween to Forget. So yeah, we're gonna start our first read through, and whenever AJ gets here, we're gonna start filming the movie thing.
Yeah.
Before we started filming, the cast, except for one who was running late, all gathered around and read the final script I had come up with together. Once AJ, our final cast member, arrived, we were able to begin shooting. So Saturday's filming went pretty smoothly. We didn't finish as much as I wanted to because Brooke, one of our actresses, had to be on stage for a show that evening, but we did manage to get 90% of the interior shooting done and have a lot of fun in the process.
Hi, welcome to Chili's.
Action.
Bella?
Wait, I'm so confused.
The hardest Brooks has laughed all day.
From a T's Nuts joke.
Whoa. Okay, that sounded good. I went home and stayed up late that night editing together all of the footage we had shot so far so that I wouldn't be behind the following night after we filmed the rest, and the next morning I woke up to some bad news. We're in quite the unfortunate situation right now. At least one of our 4 carolers in this film has tested positive for strep throat. She still has a scene to film tonight. We have a couple of options. A, we write a different scene to open the film, we work around it. Brooke brought up an idea about them like texting and that's how they get invited over. Another option is be really freaking careful. I'm texting with Elise and Brooke right now. Elise says she feels fine. This feels like a bad idea, but what if we just do it anyway? We would have everybody on set have a mask. You'd probably only take off a mask if you were about to do a shot. And then for the close-ups of Elise, like no one would even have to be standing right next to her. And she said she's feeling up for filming tonight. I think that's what we're going with. I packed a bunch of masks in my car, feeling pretty good. At least we'd be able to resume shooting with the full cast in time to finish the film. Or so I thought. I got to Zoe's house, we had lunch, and everything seemed to be going pretty smoothly. A couple of hours before filming was to begin, though, I got a text from Olivia, another one of our actresses. Unforeseen circumstances had come up, and she was unavailable for filming that evening. We needed some kind of workaround. The scene we had left was pretty straightforward. The carolers arrive at the house and begin singing, only to stop themselves when they realize they're singing to their old friend, so the old friend then invites them inside for hot cocoa. I knew immediately that Olivia's dialogue in this scene would have to be cut. I could have her record it on her phone, but it would be weird to never show her face. The camera would always be trained on a reaction shot of somebody else whenever she talked, which would just have a strange energy to it that would make it clear something was up. Plus, the audio wouldn't match everyone else's, and it would be incredibly conspicuous. We could do what we considered earlier when we thought Elise would be unavailable and replace the scene completely, but we were severely low on time, and I didn't love that idea anyway. So here's what we came up with. We cut the scene way shorter so that it doesn't have much dialogue at all, let alone dialogue spoken by Olivia. We would only show the carolers from behind, and Olivia would would barely be in frame so that we know there's 4 girls, but attention isn't being drawn to the one that would have to be a body double. But that meant we needed to find a body double. So the first person to come to my mind was Anna Kate, who acted alongside Olivia in my first short film. While their hair colors don't exactly match, they look alike, and I figured the low lighting conditions could hide that discrepancy. However, it was her mom's birthday, so she was unavailable. We asked Brooke and Elise if they knew anybody. Elise said yes, but she lives in North Carolina, which was unfortunate. Brooke also had someone, but she didn't answer the text in time, so we were getting a little bit panicked. While we were trying to figure out who could possibly do it, we got a text from Mandy, our assistant director, telling us that she might be a few minutes late because she was at her boyfriend Ty's piano recital. This was when inspiration struck. You may recognize Ty as Pete from A Halloween to Forget, or maybe as the guy from my first short film, You Know She Likes You. Either way, anyone who's known Ty in the last year or so knows about his luscious, fantastic locks of hair. He also just happens to be about as skinny as Olivia, so... How's Ty's makeover?
I had to restart because it looked messy.
Ty, are you beautiful yet?
I'm always beautiful, son.
You're right, you're right.
You know I got so much to say.
I try to hide it in my face, but it don't work. Yes, it do. I just wanna get with you.
Mandy, that's your boyfriend.
I'm so proud. Okay, we're done.
Right? It's so funny. This was a stroke of genius. Ty appears in the film for no longer than a few seconds, but once we had done his hair and Olivia's bubble braids and put him in a red sweater we borrowed from Zoe's mom, he was actually surprisingly convincing. I felt great about the second day of shooting. We got done with plenty of time to spare, took some photos with the cast and crew, and ended everything off on a great note. I once again stayed up all night editing. I never really know what to say whenever I get to this part of these behind-the-scenes videos. It's not that editing is boring to me, because I like it a lot, it's just a very solo activity. There's a ton of nuance to it, and it's always very exciting to put everything together piece by piece. Like all of filmmaking, editing is just problem solving. So for example, a problem I was having with this edit was that the girls hit the ground a little too softly whenever they fainted on screen, because when we had them fall on set, they fell onto pillows. So I had to go onto Artlist to find the perfect thud sound effects for each one of them. For Elise's fall though, none of the effects I found really seemed to be working, so I had to rely on other methods. Are you ready?
Yes.
Rachel?
I used the same method for another moment in the film whenever Brooke's character runs away from Zoe's and down the stairs. Did I sound like I was being chased by a murderer? Did I sound like I was being chased by a murderer?
Yes, you did.
Hell yeah. Stylistically, I decided to both shoot and edit this film to have pretty harsh shadows to give it that creepy vibe, and I also went with a 4:3 aspect ratio, which I felt fit the space better and also made the characters feel boxed in and trapped in a way that really fits the theme. Because I was using this particular aspect ratio, I was also able to adjust the image and make it appear a tiny bit narrower. If you were to watch this film without knowing that, you might just think, oh, it was shot on an anamorphic lens, which kinda gives footage that narrow look. But nope, that's just me doing it manually in Final Cut, because I like the way anamorphic looks, but I can't afford it.
And the finalists are A Silent Night, Pictures Up Productions from North Hall High School, Gainesville, Georgia.
Right. Hey,
congratulations to all of our
Let's go.
finalists. It's a huge accomplishment. Out of 26 teams, you're in the top 10. And the second runner-up is A Silent Night, Pictures Up Productions from North Hall High School, Gainesville, Georgia. Congratulations.
Let's go. Alright. Is it focused on me? Okay, so there you have it, A Silent Note. So there you have it. Silent Night took home second runner-up in the Winter Invitational out of 26 participating teams. Having now watched all of the finalists, I'm very proud to have made it into the top 10, particularly the top 3, because the competition was really impressive. All-American truly is home to some of the world's best student filmmakers, and to be recognized among them is an honor. This is what filming these videos looks like. I just like say something and then take a long pause, look, next line. Anyway, okay, so I learned a lot from this competition. Out of all of the films that I saw, I would argue that ours was one of the best looking and best sounding. Our cinematography and sound design were really solid, and the overall technical execution was definitely a standout feature of our film. The films that ended up beating us, though, didn't do so because they were more technically proficient than A Silent Night. Of course, they were well executed, but what really made them stand out was their stories. I mean, these movies that beat us successfully managed to be unsettling. They were ambitious, they took on some dark concepts that the other entries didn't really dare to touch on. Many of them had deeper meanings laced into the writing in ways that really impressed me. Even when the look and sound were sometimes very clearly not as strong as what we managed, their films were more interesting because their stories were just more interesting. My mentality when it came to story was a little bit too based on speed. I wanted to get a pretty good story out there very quickly so that I could spend a lot of time and a lot of energy working on making a cinematic film. I wanted to get a pretty good story down very quickly. I wanted to get a pretty good story down very quickly so that I could spend a lot of time and a lot of energy on making a cinematic film, one that kind of looked like something you would see in a theater. And that was an honorable goal for sure, and it's one I should continue pursuing in my films, but next time I do a competition like this, I'll have the foresight to know that that's not what's most important. The most important thing is a solid, character-motivated story around which everything else is built. And I think we had that, I think we did that, but I think some of the other teams just managed to do that in a stronger way, and the festival judges clearly valued unique, ambitious stories. So congratulations to the other winners and all of the participants for all of your hard work. I truly enjoyed watching all of your films. All right, here we go. Thank yous real quick. Thank you to everyone who helped us make this short film a reality. Thank you to everyone who helped us make this short film a reality. My two assistant directors, Mandy and Elizabeth, our cinematographer, Brooks, our actresses, Zoe, Elise, Olivia, Brooke, AJ, and of course, Ty, my sister, the Davidson family, everyone's families who drove them there. All of you people are amazing, and I could not have done any of this without you. And of course, thank you to the All-American High School Film Festival, not only for the recognition, but just for the chance to participate, to compete, to make something. Last but not least, thank you to all of you, the people who watch our short films, these behind-the-scenes breakdowns, and support the channel in general. I couldn't do it without any of you. So on that note, I will see you in the next video, and until then, I'm Sam Morgan, and this is Pictures Up. Thank you for holding the camera, Zoe. You're the best.
Yes, thank you to Zoe. And by the way, Sam's girlfriend, who didn't say that in the video.
My amazing girlfriend slash behind the scenes camera operator. She's the best, and I love her.